And the Bulldog show called Citadel Gray Line is back on the air. This is the hour-long show that covers all things Citadel Bulldogs. I'm John Rawl, joined by the Post and Courier's Jeff Hartsell, and we are glad to take your calls, 843-779-8496, if you've got something to say about Citadel Bulldog sports. And we will, again, take those texts. We'll have a trivia question here momentarily on the program. Oh, wrong guy. This is the program that covers all things Bulldogs. Been doing it for 13 years, and we're going to keep trucking along through the good and the bad. I am joined by Jeff Hartsell, Charleston Post and Courier. Jeff, we talk about good, we talk about bad, and there's some bad to talk about today.
Well, there's not much good to talk about, that's for sure. Citadel has lost their first two games of the year, and this week against a Division II team is no gimme either. So really an important week for Brent Thompson and Citadel football to see which direction this program is going to go.
All right. Well, as I said at the start, my actual first name isn't Thomas, but I'm kind of a doubting Thomas going forward here after what we've seen in the first two games, especially what we saw in this latest game, a 38-21 butt whooping at the hands of Charleston Southern. Not happy about it. I'm sure you're not happy about it. Again, if you want to connect to us, we welcome that here and get your feedback here. We are presented in part by IPS Packaging and BigRevPalmetto.store. We'll have a trivia question in a second that we'll ask. Let me tell you about IPS Packaging. IPS Packaging and Automation is a name y'all can trust. Since 1976, IPS Packaging and Automation has been providing manufacturers and e-commerce companies with the very best packaging products and automation in the industry. IPS Packaging offers a complete line of packaging products. They've got stretch films and 3M tapes. They got corrugated boxes, strapping, and equipment automation. IPS Packaging and Automation, based in Fountain Inn, South Carolina, will analyze and streamline your current methods to improve your packaging process. Call Class of 1997 member Derek Murdoch and his company, 800-277-7007 to learn more, or visit IPS Packaging on their website, ipackipack.com. IPS Packaging and Automation is a proud supporter of Citadel Athletics, and we sure appreciate them, appreciate BigRedPalmetto.store. And if you have a business that you would like to promote, we would love to hear from you and have you partner up with us here at the Citadel Gray Line. It's easy to do. Just give me a call. Our number, 843-779-8496. We've got a great partner also in the Charleston Post and Courier. You can be wise like I am and listen to Jeff Hartsell and go right there to the Post and Courier app, download it on your phone for just $4 over the next 4 months. You can have great content delivered to your phone or your iPad or your computer and read about all kinds of very, very great information and a lot of Citadel information. That's why Jeff Hartsell joins us here each week, as he is the Bulldog beat writer. All right, Jeff, let's get into the nuts and bolts of how in the world the Citadel has now dropped to 0-2.
Well, of course, the opening loss to Coastal Carolina was to be expected. That team has proven to be every bit as good as the preseason hype, and of course their great year last year would indicate. But this Charleston Southern game was a different story altogether. Citadel fell behind 21-0 from the jump and was never really in the game. They closed to within 10, I think, at one point, but not a good performance at all by the Bulldogs. And if you listened to or read my article about Brent Thompson's press conference on Monday, he didn't say it in so many words, but he basically said, they didn't do a good job coaching and getting them ready for this game. And you can tell on defense, sometimes they were still trying to line up when Charleston Southern was snapping the ball, and receivers running free downfield. Garish Schwarting, whose father is a Citadel grad, by the way, caught 4 touchdown passes for CSU, shorter than I am. And they made him look like an All-American. He's a fine player, but, wow. And he threw another touchdown pass. So he accounted for 5 touchdowns against the Citadel. CSU's quarterback, Jack Chambers, had a great day. And really just an all-around poor performance from the Citadel.
It was that. Jeff, let's dive into some highlights here while we have Jeff Hartsell weigh in on what he's looking at here. Again, the Citadel loses to Charleston Southern 38-21 at Johnson Hagood Stadium. The only positive, Jeff, I can dig from this game was we had nearly 11,000 people make it into Johnson Hagood for the game. That was a positive thing.
Yeah, it was a good crowd. The first of two homecomings, as you mentioned last week, Military Appreciation Day. Sergeant Elijah Bass, the active duty Marine, carried the American flag out at the start of the game. So really a good job with the military appreciation and the 9/11 remembrances. And the Citadel even acknowledged and had a moment of silence for the Charleston Southern player who lost his life in the last month or so. So the pregame was great. Once the whistle sounded, from a Citadel perspective, it was downhill from there.
Yeah, and that whistle did sound, and very few good highlights to show. That ground game just wasn't there, it seemed, in this game. And speaking of the ground game, I've got a very special guest coming up here in just a few minutes who knows a lot about how to run the ball in a Citadel Bulldog uniform. It's Everett Sands. He'll be on later this hour as he's a Citadel Athletics Hall of Famer. Would love to have had Everett Sands out there trying his best against the Buccaneers, but a few touchdowns, a few running touchdowns for this Bulldog football team. We see one right there, Jeff. Jeff, what did you see that was so, I guess, different from an offensive standpoint of why they just couldn't get anything going in a big way against Charleston Southern?
Well, the ground game wasn't terrible. They ran for 190-some yards, and Keontae Sessions had a 48-yard run. But, they fell behind so fast. And that's been an issue, throughout the spring and now into this fall. I looked it up the other day, and I think I have these numbers right. They've been outscored in the first quarter by 101-26 in the last 10 games. And that's 8 conference games in Coastal Carolina and Charleston Southern. So it's not like it was against Clemson or Alabama or something. And that's just, that's untenable, 101-26. In the first quarter. The triple option is not built to come from 3 touchdowns behind. It's built to get a lead and then strangle the life out of the other team over the course of 60 minutes. And they haven't been in position to do that. They've only scored first once in the last 10 games, and that was a blocked punt against Furman. So it wasn't even on the offense. So they've just not, in plain English, they've not been prepared at the start of these games. And it's putting them in a big hole each time out. And, they were able to come from behind and beat Wofford, but that's the only time in the last 10 games that's happened. So and they've lost 14 of 16 now. And I'm telling you, this North Greenville team is dangerous.
I know they're dangerous. And that's why, Jeff, when we started the show out here, I've kind of referenced that I've got doubts. I have serious doubts that the Citadel can beat a Division II team this week. I've got serious doubts. And I hate to say it. I'm an optimist, but my goodness. We just look at the track record here. I don't know if the Citadel's going to win a game all year, Jeff.
Well, if they can't beat North Greenville, it's hard to find a win on the rest of the schedule. That's for sure. North Greenville has a quarterback named Kalen Riley, who's played the Citadel, I think, twice already in his career at Mercer. And he was the SoCon Freshman of the Year his freshman year. So he's a proven quarterback. He's completing 68% of his passes in 2 games so far for 7 touchdowns and 1 interception. And that was against Limestone and Newberry, which are established, D2 programs in South Carolina. So North Greenville looks like the best D2 program in the state right now. And they are coached by Jeff Farrington, who is a Citadel grad. So he knows all about Citadel football and the triple option and all that good stuff. And they've got some other transfers on the team too. So there is not a big talent gap between North Greenville and the Citadel.
A Citadel alumnus comes back here this weekend to coach his team against his alma mater. Had no idea. Do you know anything more about Farrington's background?
I don't. I know he's coached at several places. I'm going to call him this afternoon and do an interview. But he's done a good job at North Greenville. This game, the Citadel was originally supposed to play South Carolina State to start a home-and-home series with the Bulldogs, but South Carolina State found a money game, so they felt they had to do that. So Citadel scrambled to find North Greenville to come to Charleston, and that gives the Citadel 6 home games this year. But this is not going to be easy by any means, and if they lose it, that does not bode well.
Yeah, I am trying to dig up right now info on Farrington, so bear with me. That's what I'm looking down here for. I'm seeing if North Greenville has a bio section on their website.
I think he might have coached at Air Force, other places.
He's from Greer, South Carolina, coached at Furman. I'm trying to find out when he was at the Citadel. I'm sorry, he's 82. A native of Winston-Salem.
82 grad, I think.
I don't know. I'm looking. But anyway, keep filling this in while I'm doing this heavy research here. He enrolled at Citadel in 78, so yeah, he's probably 82.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd never heard of the guy.
Oh, no. He's a well-known, respected coach and has done a good job at North Greenville. And, of course, the Citadel played there a couple of years ago during a hurricane situation. And North Greenville gave them a good game in that game, and that was when the Citadel had a good team. So this game is very dangerous, very losable for the Citadel.
And, Jeff, funny you should mention the game from 2016 because that is our knob knowledge question of the day. So in 2016, the Citadel did have North Greenville on the schedule. Jeff just told us that. They had to move the game. They ended up practicing, actually, at North Greenville's campus, and I think they went over to Clemson and practiced a little bit. They went to the, Look Up Lodge?
Look Up or Look Out, something like that.
Lookout Lodge, yeah. Maybe, yeah. And they've done that a couple of times. The question here this week, and you can text this answer to us right now at 843-779-8496. If you know the answer, you'll get a $25 gift certificate from BigRedPalmetto.store. We have just had Ida pass through Louisiana. We want to keep all the people in the Pelican State on our mind. We've had hurricane/tropical storm Nicholas here this week with storms in mind, Jeff. And Lord knows the people along the South Carolina coast know all too well about evacuations and stuff, and that's what happened in 2016. Our trivia question is, when the Citadel ended up moving that game from Johnson Hagood and ended up playing a Division II school on their own home turf there in Tigerville, South Carolina, what was the hurricane that caused that relocation of that game? If you know the answer, this is 2016, and don't cheat, don't Google, and don't go call Jim Cantori at the Weather Channel for your answer. If you can tell me the name of that hurricane that caused the Citadel to play in Tigerville, South Carolina, text me and the first correct answer at 843-779-8496 gets a $25 gift certificate. And of course, that 2016 team went on and got that victory at North Greenville, and it was the biggest crowd that school had ever had. And that 2016 team went on to win all the way through their regular season finale, where they got beat by what's his name from North Carolina. Not Sam Howell, the other guy that was with the Bears. Anyway, UNC beat them at Kenan Stadium, and then the Citadel went on into the playoffs. But they had a fantastic Southern Conference Championship, undefeated 2016 season, and that was when they had the game there that year against the Crusaders. And now the Crusaders coming to Johnson Hagood Stadium for that first trip south to play in front of they're going to be fired up for this game. You just said it. This is going to be a challenge, and man, I just hope this is their Super Bowl.
This is their chance to knock off a D1 team, which would certainly be in the feather in their cap. So they are going to be fired up for this game, and the Citadel better be fired up as well. And it struck me on Monday in Brent Thompson's press conference, he even questioned the effort, and that's usually not an issue for the Citadel Bulldogs, but he said they could have run down harder on kickoffs. They could have got lined up better. They could have blocked the right person. So, not a good situation at all when you're questioning preparation, schemes, personnel, and effort.
Yeah. And Jeff, sorry, hate to bring this up, Brent Thompson, but it all kind of starts at the top. When the coach is even publicly saying this, when you see the track record, when you get beat at home 17 points to a team that you should beat easily, I think. I know I'm a little selfish here, but Charleston Southern is not a team the Citadel should really ever lose to.
No, those days are over, John.
Yeah, I know, but that's how I kind of feel.
That's fine, but people remember those early games against Charleston Southern that were blowouts for the Citadel. Those days are over. Charleston Southern is a competitive FCS team, and whenever they play in the future, it's going to be a good game, which is, one reason why they should play.
So you've mentioned, you've seen it. You saw it Monday at the press conference. Brent Thompson's demeanor not looking real good. And I think the Southern Conference is moving on and improving, and I just can't and I can't just tell you here today that the Citadel is improving.
I think that's a fair point. When you look at the schedule, the next game after North Greenville is VMI. Now, VMI did get ripped by Kent State over the weekend and threw 4 interceptions in that game. So maybe, a glimmer of hope against VMI. And if they can, even if they lose to North Greenville, if they manage to win their SoCon opener, maybe things look a little different at that point. But the SoCon is tough this year, no question about it. ETSU is on the rise. I think that was a blip for VMI against a pretty good FBS team in Kent State. So I think SoCon slate is going to be very, very difficult.
Jeff, let me ask you about some personnel. One guy that got a bunch of carries in that Coastal Carolina game, I'm not even sure if he saw the field against Charleston Southern, Storch. You just wrote a great story about him, and then he doesn't even get a carry in the game. What's up with that?
Well, he did not. And I think, Amika Nwanze came back and was available for this game, and I think Brent Thompson wanted to see what Amika could do carrying the load. But this is just my opinion. I don't know why they're not using more than one B-back at a time in a kind of a rotation. I think there is a case to be made that they find a rhythm after a certain number of carries, and that's certainly a fair point. But also, to play one B-back for 60 minutes, Amika had 18 carries. This was not an excess by B-back standards. I think Tyler Renew had 40 in a game one time. But, I'm not quite sure why Nathan Storch didn't see the field. I don't think, as good of a story as Nathan Storch is, I don't think he's the answer at B-back, but he certainly earned, in my opinion, some snaps in there. And but they wanted to see what Amika could do. And maybe against North Greenville, somebody else will get a shot.
Well, I thought that B-back position took so many licks and pounding that's why in your recent article at postandcourier.com you mentioned how, good Lord, they were down to their 6th or 7th option with Storch. And now that you've got a couple of guys at least available, you thought they would at least give a little bit of a break to avoid all that pounding, and we just didn't see that.
Didn't see it, and after you fall behind so fast and so big, they had to throw the ball 23 times. And when the Citadel's throwing the ball 23 times, things are not going right. So once you fall behind that far, that quickly, sort of all bets are off, right? You just do what you have to do to try to get back in the game.
That's what you hope. And quick programming note, reminder coming up in just a few minutes, Everett Sands, Citadel class of 1993, a Citadel Athletics Hall of Famer, currently an assistant coach, a running backs coach for the Catawba Indians, who I think play in the same league, maybe not. No, they don't play in the same league as North Greenville, because North Greenville is in the Gulf South Conference, which is a very good conference. It's got Valdosta State, it's got West Georgia, it's got Delta State, the Statesman, the Fighting Okra also. And they've come on in that conference, and they're nipping at the heels of the FCS there in Division II. And that's why this game this weekend really scares me. Jeff, I was a little bitty cadet back in, I think it was 1991, when a team called Wofford and Sean Graves came in as a Division something. They might have even been in AIA. And
That's
came in
the
and
last time the Citadel lost to a Division II team was in that game against Sean Graves.
And the Citadel lost to Wofford that year.
Right.
And it was pretty bad. And I was ready to fire Charlie Taff after that one. And good thing I was didn't have any power, because obviously that 1992 team went on to have a heck of a year. But speaking of the 92 team, Everett Sands, again, coming right up here in a few minutes. And we'll actually hear the voice of the late Charlie Taff when Everett joins us here in a second. Jeff, what about the health of this team? What can you tell us about that?
I think the health is good, as far as I know right now, aside from the B-backs that were lost in the preseason. That would include Alex Ramsey and Logan Billings. Clay Harris should be coming back at that position, and Logan Billings at that position. Maybe by the VMI game, they have a bye week before VMI, so maybe they'll get those guys back. But elsewhere, nothing major that I am aware of.
Well, if you're not aware of it, then it's just not happening.
I don't know about that. But Brent Thompson did say you should see some personnel changes on defense, especially this week. The situation in the secondary was not good against Charleston Southern, and for whatever reason, the reasons, and I don't call them excuses, I think they really are reasons that the Citadel struggled last spring are real, with COVID and injuries and opt-outs and suspensions. That really took a toll on the roster. Those reasons are not there right now, although I think there is still a lingering COVID issues with guys still having to quarantine and contact trace, and we're not quite sure who those might be from week to week. But yeah, it's very puzzling on defense. They have all SoCon players who have made all conference at every level of the defensive line, linebacker, and secondary. And by Brent Thompson's own admission, they're having trouble getting lined up right. So very, very puzzling.
Jeff, this is a really tricky question, but that's why if you don't know, then it just doesn't need to be known. I saw a player out there on the field at Johnson Hagood this past weekend wearing jersey number 0. What can you tell me about that?
Yes, that was Brian Horn,
okay,
the linebacker and a team captain. He was wearing number 45. He's the Citadel's new military captain. So he's taking over the number 0 after the unfortunate situation with Javante Middleton, the former military captain. So Brian Horn is the new number 0 and the new military captain.
Okay. Any update on Middleton?
None that I am aware of.
Is he still officially part of the program?
No, he's suspended from school.
Okay. So he's no longer enrolled in school?
Not quite sure what suspended from school means, but I don't think he's going to class or anything like that. No.
Well, again, one reason I asked that question, when I saw that 0 playing out there, I was like, surely to goodness that's probably not Middleton out there playing.
No.
And I went to the website. citadelsports.com, and they had him still listed at 0, Middleton, that is.
Yeah. I think it happened late in the week, too late to make the rosters. I don't know why the website hasn't been updated, but that was not Middleton. That was Brian Horn.
Okay. Well, speaking of citadelsports.com, Jeff, not only have they updated the website, they've really updated the website. They got, as of today, a brand new look at citadelsports.com. I know what I'm doing the rest of the day and night.
What is that?
Surfing around.
I'll have to check it out too. I haven't clicked on it today.
Yeah, I just noticed it prior to coming on here. So kudos on that front. Of course, you got to have while things may not be beautiful and perfect on the gridiron, maybe they can just be beautiful and perfect on these things that don't matter, but they do matter. They do matter. It makes a difference for the Citadel to have as good of a look as it possibly can, which is I guess why they're rebranding with logos and things like that. Jeff, anything else? I know there's something off the field I definitely want to ask you about. You had a wonderful story at the Post and Courier about it, but anything else housekeeping-wise with the football team we should get from you?
No, not that I can think of. In other sports, the Citadel had the SoCon Volleyball Player of the Week this week, and Charlissa De Jesus, who I wrote about over the summer. She was working out with the football team. The soccer team is off to a good start, and the basketball schedule was released in the last week. They have games at Pitt and at Duke. And the home slate, not the best home slate I've ever seen. But, yeah, this basketball schedule is finally out.
Any reason for why it took so long?
I don't know.
Okay. So Duke and Pitt are the big-time money games, I guess, if there's such a thing in basketball.
There is such a thing, and, yes, those are the big money games.
And for some of you who may not be aware of this, it's always kind of funny when you bring up the Blue Devils that the year that Duke won its first national championship, 1991, they actually came and played a game at McAllister Fieldhouse that year. And that was a crazy scene. The night the Gulf War started, by the way, in 1991. So, yes, okay, basketball-wise, again, as you just brought out on our show from the previous week, one of the upcoming, I guess he would have been a junior in this upcoming season, he has entered the transfer portal, and I don't know what Coach Balcom's got planned to fill that gap, but basketball season just a few weeks away, frankly.
That is correct. Fletcher A.B., the fine 6'3" guard, good three-point shooter, entered the portal. And as the last time I checked, he has not announced a new home. So, yeah, the Citadel is going to have to find a way to replace his production, which will not be easy.
Yes, true on that. All right, Jeff, let me ask you about a great story you just posted, a sad story. I know most of us try, if we're watching this show or tuning in to Citadel Gray Line, we think we're all about the Bulldogs and we love them and all that, but there actually was a lady who probably got the award of the most passionate Citadel Bulldog supporter, and unfortunately at age 104, this great Bulldog booster has gone on to the big Citadel skybox in the sky. Jeff, tell me about this story.
Yeah, Helen McCoy, what a great lady. She was 101 when I met her a couple of years ago and did a story on her, and just a big Bulldog fan. Her son, Peter McCoy, went to the Citadel, and she had her favorite spot up in the luxury suite, or the club's level suite, by the window there, and where she would perch at her table, sipping her rum and Coke and watching the Bulldogs play. She liked to get her hair done up each Saturday morning before the game, and then Peter would bring her over to the stadium, and she wanted to make sure she was in her seat by kickoff, and her favorite player was Stump Mitchell.
Oh.
So, yeah, she was a great Bulldog fan, and Brent Thompson acknowledged her on Twitter after the news that she had passed away at age 104. So rest in peace to what I'm sure is the Citadel's oldest living fan, in Helen McCoy.
Yes, again, what a nice story. And you can go to postandcourier.com. You can find the Post and Courier on great newsstands across the South. And, of course, you can get the app added to your phone if you're a smart person, and have stories like the story on Mrs. McCoy brought to you in living color, and some great writing and a great photo also of Miss McCoy in that story. Don't have any correct guesses coming in, so I'm going to go ahead, since we're going to switch over here in a second to bring on the Sandman, Everett Sands, who is a Citadel Athletics Hall of Famer, incredible running back at the Citadel, never lost a yard in his days running in the wishbone offense. The correct answer, the question was, what was the name of the hurricane that in 2016 caused the Citadel to have to go to the upstate, practice for a few days, ultimately move a game that was scheduled to be played at JHS against North Greenville. The game ended up getting moved to North Greenville's Tigerville, South Carolina campus. What was the name of the storm that caused all that? And one reason, Jeff, I asked this question, you're a guy like so many other hundreds of thousands of people in area code 843 about this time each year. And I hate to remind you, there's usually some kind of storm that pops up on the radar and people like you have to evacuate. There's been so many here over the last few years. You might have forgot about this one. Jeff, I don't want you to shout out the answer, but do you know the answer of that 2016 hurricane?
It's slipping my mind at the moment.
Ooh,
there's been so many.
There have been so many. The storm from 2016 that caused the Citadel to play at North Greenville, Hurricane Matthew, which was the first Category 5 storm in decades when it came across Haiti and caused so much devastation there. And we thought this thing was going to be really, really, really bad when it hit the southeast coast. It was bad. I think about 45 people lost their lives, $10 billion in damages. But the most devastating thing in the Carolinas was more flooding caused by not necessarily the wind damage. But, yeah, there's been so many, it's kind of silly how much people have had to evacuate for good reason. We don't want anybody getting hurt or killed. But Hurricane Matthew was the name of that 2016 storm.
Where did that come ashore? Do you remember? Was it up by Wilmington?
Yeah, it was. But it really affected inland, well inland. I think it kind of stalled and caused the Petey River to flood in a big way. I remember there was I believe it was Matthew that caused such big flooding that cars, all these brand new cars got destroyed at these parking lots that were kind of near creeks and rivers. I don't know if you remember that story or not.
Yeah. In addition to the loss of life, it disrupted a lot of high school football.
Yes.
In the Low Country. I remember that for sure. Yep.
Hurricane Matthew. So we'll have to save we're actually getting rich here by not giving out these $25 gift certificates because we, for the sake of week, don't have a correct answer. But hey, the website again for great Citadel swag, if you will, is bigredpalmetto.store. I would like for somebody just to text us so we can feel good about ourselves. Hurricane Matthew is the answer. All right, Jeff, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're going to move over from you to a class of 1993 member, Everett Sands, the Sandman. He's standing by. Jeff, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, John, so much. Have a good week.
postandcourier.com is the website. So let me do a little connection here with the Sandman, and we'll be right back to bring him on after this message from the Autism Society.
Hi, I'm Allie. At age 2, my parents knew that there was something different about me. They were told that my life would not be typical. But Autism Society of America was there to help through all of my journeys. Help make a difference and make a donation. Go to autismsociety.org.
And we are on the Citadel Gray Line, moving on to a great Band of Gold spotlight that we have set up right now. And it is awesome to not only have a great Citadel alumnus come on, but it's pretty neat for me as a guy from the class of 1993 to welcome in one of my classmates, certainly one of our brightest stars of the class of 1993, Everett Sands. Everett Sands is now coaching in college football at Catawba. He's coached many places throughout his career. We're going to talk about all that, but let's welcome into the Gray Line for the first time. He's been so busy coaching all these years, we haven't had a chance to catch up with him in football season, but we figured a way to get him on here today. Everett Sands, welcome into Citadel Gray Line.
Thank you very much. How's everything going?
Everything is going great. You're at Catawba. We're going to find out what exactly you and the Indians have going on right now, but you are from that class of 1993, a Conway, South Carolina native. How in the world did you end up at the Citadel?
Well, it was actually a funny story because I was sitting in a psychology class, And Coach Marty Long, who's also a Citadel grad, came by.
This is in
And
high
it
school.
just so happened. I'm sorry?
This is while you're in high school psychology
Right, this
class.
is when I was in high school.
Okay.
It just so happened that there was a student teacher who was a Citadel alum in my class.
Oh, really?
He was teaching the class. And so when he came by, I was like, I don't want to go to Citadel. That's not. And he talked, at least hearing Coach Long out. And then from that point on, the rest is history.
Well, you matriculated there in August or late July possibly of 1989. Did you get to play as a freshman, as a true freshman, as a knob?
I did not. I was redshirted that year.
Okay. All right. So you redshirted. That was, of course, Hurricane Hugo. So you had to go through being a knob, Hurricane Hugo, being away from home and all. How did it go your first year?
Well, hey, as for all knobs, it was tough. It was different than anything you could have imagined. But it definitely helped set the base for the years to come.
Well, what a great career you had. And I want you to not hold back, Everett. I mean, it's been, gosh, I hate to say it, 30 years since you were lining up in the Citadel blue and white. But we have said on this show many times, Everett Sands, the guy who never lost a yard. I don't know how that's even possible.
Hey, that is a tribute to my offensive line. They just did a great job in front of me, and hey, I just allowed me to fall forward every time.
You better go ahead and shout out their names real quick.
Hey, man, it was a bunch of them. I mean, from early on, you had Charles Wallace, you had Deron Robinson, Brett Copeland. I don't want to forget anybody.
Kerry Cash.
Lance Hansen, Kerry Cash. I know I'm missing. Who am I missing?
It's been 30 years. It's okay. It's okay. You mentioned Charles Wallace. Is he the opera singer?
No, that's Deron Robinson.
Okay, was he on the offense or defense?
Both of them are offensive linemen.
Okay, that's what I thought. I don't think I heard you say his name, so you better call his name out, or he'll be singing about you.
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did.
All right.
I called his name. Yep.
We don't want you being the subject of one of his great opera singing. All right,
Yep,
Everett,
exactly.
Let's talk about 1990. It was a certain day in October. You had a chance. You started playing there in that 1990 season, and the Citadel Bulldog team had just come off a loss to Chattanooga. Things weren't going so well. It was a ho-hum year, and y'all ended up going on October 20th, 1990 to Williams-Brice Stadium, and you shocked the world with a 38-35 victory over the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Mm-hmm. That was a great day.
That was a great day. Yes.
One of the things that happened that morning that got us sparked.
Well, let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, Everett, because I got a little surprise, and that surprise is the voice of the late Charlie Taff. We had him on this program many years ago. Coach Taff talked about that exact thing you were about to set up. So let's go to the archives of the Citadel Gray Line, of which y'all can listen to our more than 300 episodes of this show by going into iTunes. You can find it on the TuneIn Radio app and more. I think we're also on iHeartRadio's app, but we're also at citadel.libsyn.com, citadel.libsyn.com, and on that site they have a little search bar you can search, and if you search for Taff, you'll be able to find the couple of times we had his lovely voice on this show. But here's Coach Charlie Taff, former Citadel coach, Everett Sands' coach back in the 1990s, talking about a special moment there that inspired his Bulldog football team to roar to a victory over the South Carolina Gamecocks. And this is the voice of the late Charlie Taff.
The challenge, there was no intimidation factor or anything like that. And they hit the field running, and so the first time they slowed down was 60 minutes later.
Yeah, and around that 60th minute, a guy with the jersey number of 14 did a pretty good job for you. Tell me about the quarterback play of Jack Douglas.
He wasn't bad that day. He was just a young sophomore, I think, as I recall at the time, and he had an average game. Oh my goodness! I think he was 7 or 10 catches that day, if memory serves me. That that was a lot of throws for us in that day. But 70% and just did an absolute magnificent job running the offense and in Everett Sands, of course, hitting the ball up inside and, on a lot of the dive plays, which when you get that part of the offense going in the wishbone or that style of offense, then the perimeter game starts to open up. And we just had a great game, great execution by our offense, and the coaches did a great job preparing them, and the players went out and just it was just a tremendous football game, and got down. I think we had I know we had to drive the ball there at the end, and all I remember is getting down there and inside the 1 yard line, and I think Ted Byrne, who was in my TV show at the time on the radio, described it as we were fourth in a paper clip from the end zone. So it wasn't very far, but I still can see the play. We ran a triple option to the left with a tight end on the left side, and Spencer Scott was our left tackle, and got inside on the linebacker, and the Carolina defensive tackle closed, and Jack read it perfectly and took the first seam and, up between the tackle and the tight end, dove up inside and got it in, and just a tremendous end to a great football game.
Well, a guy that had
a there. Pickup of 6 on the play. Terrence Young out wide to the left at the 10-yard line. Dogs have got to get in for a score. A field goal would do them no good. Second down, 10 yards to go. Ball on the South Carolina 10. Everett Sands gets the ball. Right side gets down to the 3-yard line. Everett Sands, a Sandman, down to the 3. Pickup of 2 on the play. Reeves in on the tackle. Look at the clock. It's running out. Time is running out. The Dogs have got to get in there. Second down, 4 yards to go. It's first and goal to go on the 3-yard line. First and goal to go for the Dogs. They fake, give it up, try to go up the middle to Everett Sands. He picks up maybe 2 yards on the play. Ball is on the 2-yard line. Ball is on the 2-yard line. Second down, goal to go. Ball is on the 2-yard line. They've got to get in for the touchdown. A field goal will do them no good. Douglas sets him down. Ball on the near side hash mark. They give it on the left side to Ray Wimbush, trying to crack the right side of the line. No. He does not get up there. It is now third down and goal to go. Third and goal. Dogs with the ball. Time is really running out. The clock is running down, and the Gamecocks lead it. They give it. They pitch it now to Wimbush. Wimbush tries the right side. No! He is just shy. He hit the pylon. I thought maybe he might be in. He was just shy of the goal line. The Dogs have it. Fourth and goal. The Dogs are right just shy of the goal line. They are a paper clip away from 6 points. A paper clip away from going ahead of the Gamecocks. Dogs set them down. It's fourth and goal to go. With the ball. Setting them down is Douglas. Douglas takes it, fakes, cuts it in the end zone. Touchdown, Bulldogs! The Dogs score! Jack Douglas saw the triple option, fake to the fullback, turned it on the left side, cut in there. Dogs.
All right. How about that memory, Everett Sands?
Well, here's the first thing I got to say. I have to disagree with Coach Taff. Jack Douglas, that was a give read. Jack Douglas was supposed to give the ball. You saw how right then I would have walked in the end zone. But it was a great win. And I knew inside the win, Jack's not going to get that ball up. He's just going to go and follow me in.
Oh, you knew that?
It is what it is.
A Hall of Famer in Jack Douglas, a Hall of Famer we're talking with today, Everett Sands here on the Citadel Gray Line, the Sandman. And going back to what you were setting up before we heard that clip, Coach Taff had pulled out the state newspaper from that morning that said that all the Gamecocks needed to do on that particular October 20th, 1990 day to win was show up. And instead, Everett and Jack Douglas, Tony Skoll, and more showed up and showed out, and it was a big win, a great win. But that was one of many great wins that you had in your career. Let's fast forward now. We got all kinds of great stuff here with Everett Sands, class of '93, Citadel Athletics Hall of Famer. let's go to your senior year. Did you come back after you graduated and play in the 93 season?
I did.
You did? Okay. Sorry. When I got my diploma, I got the heck out of Charleston, and I don't think I came back for that 93 season, so hopefully you'll forgive me. But in 92, your cadet senior year, but it would have been your third year of playing football, the Citadel had the most remarkable season. Started out with a win over Arkansas. You also had a win over West Point that year. You had an undefeated season going into the Marshall game. The Marshall game was the largest attendance Johnson Hagood Stadium's ever seen, with over 24,000 people, I think, was the count there. And I've got a clip here from this Marshall game, which ended up being a loss, but what a scene there. And here, let's go to the Marshall TV network with their call of Mr. Sands doing his thing.
Eric Little loves to play against Marshall. He had his best game of the season last year against the Herd. And Everett Sands runs into Marshall territory all the way down to the 42-yard line. Charlie Taff calls Everett Sands the best fullback he's ever coached. Look at those numbers. You can understand why he makes that statement. He's the leading rusher in the Southern Conference, averaging 144 yards a game.
In trying to stop the wishbone, first and foremost, you got to stop dive. There it is. As long as you can run the dive to the fullback, I promise the change will move all afternoon. Stop the dive first, then you got a chance on the option.
First and 10 for the Bulldogs, 43-yard line. Sands again tests the Marshall defensive front. This time, not much yardage inside.
Little counteraction that time, running the dive again. The quarterback reverses out. You hope you're going to.
All right, there is number 34, Everett Sands. Oh, I love those unis of the 1990s and more. Everett here with us on Citadel Gray Line, and that game ended up being a loss, but ultimately the Citadel would rally that season, get to be number 1 in the country, beat Furman on a rainy day in Greenville to win the Southern Conference. Just a magical run in that 1992 season. It's been nearly 30 years now since that season and more. Everett, how do you look back on your time playing as a Bulldog?
Oh, it was a great time. And, and I think that Marshall game set up what happened in the Furman game. Now, the first drive of the Marshall game, it's 4th and 1 from the 1, and we decided to kick a field goal. And I think just, from a coaching mentality, the coach thought about that. And then the Furman game, which is the last game of the season, is for the Southern Conference. It's 4th and 1 from the 50-yard line, and coach decides to go for it. So I just believe he thought about that 4th and 1 from the goal line and made up his mind at that point, if it's 4th and 1 again in a critical situation, we're going for it. And we was able to get that, convert that first down against Furman and go on to win that game.
And who got that conversion? Who got that run?
I'm sorry?
On that 4th and 1 at Furman, who got the carry?
Oh, they gave it to me.
Okay. That's why you remember it so well. Again, let me remind everybody here, Everett Sands, I said you got to brag on yourself. What was your total amount of yards and touchdowns at the Citadel?
I can't be specific. It was 3,900 plus, and I want to say it was 34 touchdowns or so.
Okay. Almost 4,000 yards rushing,
yep,
and
exactly.
Never got tackled for a loss.
Yeah. See, in my mind, I think it was this. I am 133 yards behind Stump.
Oh, is that what it is?
3 yards in every game, and I'll be number 1 instead of number 2. Not that I've thought about that a lot, but that's what it is.
He's talking about Livonia Stump Mitchell, who played at the Citadel in the late 70s and 1980 and was amazing, had an amazing NFL career. And we've had Stump Mitchell on the Citadel Gray Line before. Have you ever had a chance to talk to him?
Oh, yeah. I actually did an internship with them up in Cleveland in 2019.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I tried to talk to Stump a good bit.
You don't have quite the Stump Mitchell look going on. What do you think about that look?
Hey, it's his own. It's his own look. And he's growing that beard, and Stump when you see him.
Yeah. Well, he's done a great job. Some people are even putting the Browns, which I think he's been moving around so much. Let me double check with you. Is he still with the Browns?
He is.
Okay. Some people got them penciled in to be in the Super Bowl this year, and a large part of that reason is what he's doing with the Browns backfield and more. Exactly. Maybe they're watch an old video of Everett Sands at the Citadel learning how to run a ball. Everett, of course, you've made a career out of football after your degree, which, by the way, computer science degree. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. It's one of those things that actually kind of funny because, I worked for Coach Seagraves, who was our offensive coordinator initially. And one of the things that my mother said is the only reason I'm coaching that she didn't have to pay for my education. Because, of course, starting off, we weren't making a lot of money, and I could have made more in computer science. But, it was an opportunity to pour into kids' lives. And that's what I wanted to do. And I've enjoyed doing that over the last 25 years.
Been in all kind of places, including Columbia, South Carolina. You were on Steve Spurrier's staff. And, in fact, 2015, Gamecocks Citadel, 23-22 Citadel victory. You're an assistant coach for the Gamecocks. How did that work out?
Well, that was, as I say, one of the toughest days in my coaching career. It was one of those that I knew what it took to stop them, but we didn't get it done.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. Actually, something funny, one of the USC alums hit me up and said, Everett Sands, whenever the Citadel plays USC, don't be on either sideline. Now, the Citadel sideline, not USC sideline, just don't be in the stadium.
Well, Everett, throughout the years, again, you've represented the Citadel well, and here we're just tickled to be able to talk to you from the class of 1993. You have, let's brag on your family, you got 2 kids, I think. One's at Vanderbilt. You've got a doctor for a wife. Tell me, brag on your family for a minute.
Well, my oldest son, I actually have 3 kids. Okay. My oldest son is a junior at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
He's working on a mechanical engineering degree. My daughter is a freshman at Spelman College in Atlanta. And she's going to look at international studies with a minor in computer science. Wonder where she get the computer science from. And then my youngest son is a freshman at Blythewood High School. And so very proud of all 3 of my kids. And yes, my wife did finish her doctorate last year, right as the pandemic was coming into place. And just so happened that her deal was on online education. So what an optimal time to get a doctorate in online education. So she's been pulled in a bunch of different directions and, doing some consulting things here and there, but definitely proud of her as well.
And where is she from?
She's from Hartsell, Georgia, the home of Spezio Stowers.
Yes, it is. Right there on the South Carolina line.
Yep.
And Spezio, if you don't know, was a backup quarterback at the Citadel behind Jack Douglas. And just another great representative of the class of 1993. And y'all might have even been in the same company. Is that right?
We were.
That's okay.
We were.
That would be G Company for all of you keeping score at home. Okay, so tell us what you're doing now. You're at Catawba, and you're a running backs coach.
Yep. Well, this was a great opportunity for me. Actually, I took 2020 off. Left South Carolina, went to UTSA. After UTSA, I went to Coastal Carolina. During my daughter's senior year, I wanted to be around more. And actually, about mid-July, Coach Walker, the head coach, was like, "Hey, I need you. I need you on the staff." And so here I am, the co-offensive coordinator, the special teams coordinator, and then also coaching the running backs, which I think it's definitely a great opportunity for me just to put myself in position to be a head coach, because that is my goal.
That's a question I was going to ask you, because Everett, sadly, you and I aren't kids anymore. We're getting on up there, and you've not had a chance to be a head coach that I'm aware of. And I wanted to ask you, is that a goal of yours? And you just said it. So we want to help you reach that goal. And gosh, people would be smart to look at a Everett Sands for sure to be a head coach. If you were coaching, let's say, the Citadel now, or any school that had a very run-heavy offense, this is something I've always wanted to know, not having been a football player or running back or anything like that. What are some of the key things you teach your students, if you will, of how to, I guess, ball protection and just the main thing they got to be looking for when they're out there in the middle of a football game?
Well, first of all, I'll make them understand that ball security is job security, yours and mine. And understand that if you fail to protect and secure the ball, you're going to lose your job before I lose my job. So my guys know if they fail to protect and secure the ball, just run off the field. Somebody else is coming in. It's not going to be it don't even matter if the play was over and it came out. So that is a heavy emphasis for us. And of course, we have some techniques that we work on. But another big thing for our backs is to make sure that they get a pre-snap read. They see the whole field, see what's going on. A lot of times, whether it's pass or run, just recognizing what the defense is will help prepare you for the play. So now I have an idea of where they are, and now I can have an idea of how the blocking scheme should work. And then we can go on and play, and I might have to react because, again, they might do something different than what they're showing initially. But at least I got a pre-snap read and I know what's going on.
Outstanding. And a large part of what you do is the network of coaching and more. You've been in a lot of places. And, again, we'll just kind of represent Everett Sands here today. Y'all give this guy an opportunity for sure because we know what kind of background he's had and the great example that he is. Hey, if nothing else, the guy doesn't lose. You don't lose yardage. You don't lose games, for goodness sake. Everett Sands, great. Again, now coaching running backs at Catawba and also a co-offensive coordinator there for the Indians. What is your current how do you keep up with Citadel world? How do you know what's going on? Do you stay in touch with all your old teammates and more?
Well, you know what? One of the things that when I was coaching at the Citadel that I used very regularly was how many guys that you're recruiting has 75 to 100 of their teammates' phone numbers in their phone and had some sort of communication with them, over the last 6 to 12 months. I mean, that's unheard of in a lot of colleges, but the Citadel is different. So we definitely try to do some things, whether it's via group text messages or just reaching out every once in a while, but just do some different things to make sure we stay in contact with them. And then another big thing that we're having planned, we was going to do it last year, and then because of COVID and everything got pushed back, is we had a Taff era reunion back in 2015. And the plan right now is to have another one in 2022. Which again would be 20 years from the SoCon championship team. So that's something that we're going to be planning and definitely going to have a golf tournament tied in with it. So that is another way that we're going to make sure that we stay in contact with each other.
Outstanding. Well, again, Everett, you have been so kind with your time, and I wish we could have a couple of hours that we could just sit here and talk to you. But we will let you go because you got game day coming up soon. And thank you so much. Anything else before we get out of here that you want to make sure you get across to Citadel Nation?
Well, hey, let's go Dogs to get a win this weekend.
All right, sounds good. Everett Sands, number 34, a Citadel Athletics Hall of Famer. Thank you and congratulations on all your success.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. And thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time on Citadel Gray Line, a production of CRM Sports.